Hi and welcome to my channel. Today you're going to learn how to paint a simple scene inspired by Edward Wesson, who was a great English landscape artist. I've been painting for over 30 years now, and when I first started to paint I found it useful to copy works from top artists as a way of me gaining knowledge and how to go about painting good art. And there's lots of things to learn, so much so that I was really baffled by it all for ages. Now, if you're new to painting, you've probably been looking at art on the internet, reading books and think, well, there's no way that I can be that good. And there's a lot of things like techniques you'd like to ask about, but don't want to look silly asking. Well, there's no shame in being a beginner. Just go for it. Hopefully I can help you with these videos. You notice the first part of this has been speeded up just to so we get cracking onto the painting part of it quicker. This is just drawing in the shapes and making slight alterations where necessary. You'll see that I've put all the details of all the colours and the brushes that I'm using. It's all very simple. Neutral tint, very watery first of all. And then cobalt blue raw sienna mix, still very watery. This is going to dry out slightly lighter than what it is, so just remember that. But you want it to be light. And then the foreground is just a wash of raw sienna, just to cover the paper, just to give us some idea. Let that dry completely before you move on to this next stage, which is using neutral tint. And you'll notice the way I'm using the brush on this part, I'm kind of just putting it in different directions so that when it dries it won't be completely flat. It'll look like the undulations of a distant hill. Cut around the building and the haystack. Smaller brush, paint the distant water in cobalt blue, keep it fairly strong. And then as you bring it nearer, keep it along the back shore fairly strong, but as you bring it down, add more water. Make it lighter. It gives the appearance of the reflections of the clouds. That's everything blocked in. very light wash on the for the cottage. And these are the foreground rocks, done very simply. This is all about not fiddling. Now carefully painting the distant building. Haystack next to it. As you can see, it's nothing more than very simple washes, no fiddling, and it wouldn't have taken this very long at all to paint this. Probably painted on site. Now coming on to the foreground again, which is mixed with the original colour but stronger. That'll be raw sienna. Try to just put it on in one go. It's always very tempting to fiddle about. But it will look more random. Just go once. While it's still wet, put raw umber in amongst it. Wet into wet. Trying to achieve this sort of randomness is something that you really got to practice, especially if when you first start out painting. So I remember it was just really like colouring in by numbers. I'd draw the shapes and then fill them in with paint. But expressive painting, loose painting, is very much a case of using your brush strokes randomly. When you're doing this from a photograph, or if you're doing it, you really got to try and not slavishly copy what's in front of you. But just sort of let your brush kind of just skip over a lot of the paper, doing its own thing. Especially with the wet into wet, you've got to let the paint do the work, and you'll find that it is uncontrollable, but then that's the beauty of painting in watercolour, is it's kind of random nature of it that you don't get in other mediums. And the other thing you've got to get used to is when you put it on wet into wet, looking at it and not fiddling about with it, and just letting it sort of merge in, and when it dries it will just blend in perfectly, because at the moment it looks like obvious splotches, but they'll disappear when it dries out, and it'll be a nice random effect. That's the foreground, almost completed. And moving on to the trees at the back there, which will outline the cottage and draw your attention to that area. Cobalt blue and cadmium yellow make a really nice dark green. You can see that it probably only used about 5 or 6 different colours to achieve this painting, and that's what Edward Wesson used to do, is just use a few colours. As you can see, it's all very direct painting, no fiddling. Well, I probably fiddle a bit more than what he would do, but just put it on and leave it. Just doing these last few details with a small brush. I quite like using neutral tint for my final darks. Getting very close to the end of the painting now. What I do when I finish paintings is I tend to put them in a temporary frame that I've got, and go back and look at it a few days later, and then get it down again, and then bits that you don't notice need attention, stand out, and then you can alter a few things. And that was it, all done in about 20 minutes. Just doing these last few bits, few branches. Once again, just do a few, don't do too many. And there we go. Thank you for watching.